Hello, my name is Gary Wegner and I'd like to welcome you to our Understanding and Applying Google Calendar class. During this class, you will learn how to navigate your Google Calendar interface, how to access the settings page in order to customize your Google Calendar based on your personal preferences, share your calendar with others, view declined events, select a default or custom view, and set up custom notifications, create an event in multiple ways and populate event details, schedule a meeting with a custom repeat schedule, invite guests, view guest availability, and reserve resources such as conference rooms, modify, duplicate, and delete an event, copy an event to another calendar, change your response and email guests, create and customize a new calendar, overlay other calendars to your calendar view, subscribe to a public and resource calendar, search your calendar, and printing your calendar. So as you can see, we're starting off in our Google Mail account screen. Now, what I'd like to do before we move on is just to point out a few things that are directly connected and related to your Google Calendar. Now, to start off with, the most visible thing that we see within our screen is the first couple of emails. You can see these are directly from Google Calendar, and these are actually agenda items that you can get in your mailbox somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning every day. Now I've chosen to get this from my executive's calendar, and you can see here one says the daily agenda and the other one says you have no events scheduled that day. Now another thing I'd like to point out to you is that in the middle of my screen I have this one that has a gray bar, and this is from Gary. This is a calendar invitation, and if I go into the email itself, you'll see it's got some additional information. Now with any of your calendar invites from the outside, in terms of, let me just jump back, the outside of the message here, you can RSVP to that calendar invite, and it will automatically update within your Google Calendar for you on that event. Or if we go into the actual message itself, you'll see here, you can see a little bit more information maybe to help you make your decision. So to the left side of the invite here, we have the yes, maybe, and no. And then to the right side, you can see your agenda for that day, where it will give you a little bit more information like earlier events or even later events, and then what time the actual event that you're responding to is scheduled. So maybe that'll help you make that decision on whether you can attend it or not. Below in the lower half of the screen, we actually have the ICS part of the file. This is going to show us our yes, maybe, and no responses, and we can click on any of those links and respond there. And also we have a more options and a more details link. Now if I click on the more details, it's going to open up in a new tab, and this will take us into our Google Calendar application and go right into the calendar details of that specific event. And then from here I can see all the pertinent information. I'm just going to go back to the top and close that. I'm going to go back down to the bottom and to show you what it looks like when we click on more options. Once again, opens up a new tab, and it goes into that specific event for those details as well. And then from there you can take some action. Down at the very bottom of that file, you'll see we have the invite.ics file, and it allows us to download it from here as well. So let's just go back up to the top. We're going to jump back out of the inbox there. We're going to go into our inbox view, and another couple of things I'd like to just point out to you regarding your calendar application through mail is one is to the left side of our screen underneath our mail icon. We have a little pull down arrow there, and if I click on that pull down arrow, you'll see here that you can access your task list. Now if I click on that, it's going to pop up my task list down at the bottom right of our screen, and I can go ahead and start working with my task list. And your task list is your personal to-do list. No one else has access to this. This is specific to you and only you, and you can work with this within your Google Calendar. And anything that you do here will automatically be updated in your Google Calendar view, as well as if you do something in the Google Calendar view, it will update here for you to look at. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in our class. And another thing I'd like to just point out with you with your Google Calendar is in the lower left corner I have a gadget turned on. And if I click those three little dots, you'll see that I have my Google Calendar gadget enabled. Allows me to see the view of my calendar for the month, and then if I scroll down I can see what's going on my days that I'm working in. So I just wanted to point out to you that little feature there, and that is actually a lab that you can turn on, and in your labs it is called the Google Calendar gadget. So that's what I have for you there. Now let's go ahead and jump into our Google Calendar, and we're going to navigate there from going to the far upper right corner of our screen. We're going to go into our 9-dot grid, which is our apps navigator. We'll click on that, and we're going to click on that calendar icon there with the 31 and select. Now, just to kind of show everyone around, just in case you've never experienced the environment of Google Calendar, I'm going to show you around the screen first, and then we'll jump into setting some things up and then get into actually creating and playing with Google Calendar. Now, just to kind of show you around, in the very top in the tab, you'll see that there is a blue icon with a 12 in it. That lets me know that today is the 12th, just as a quick tip there. Below that, we have a search calendar bar. This is where we can do a basic search as well as an advanced search throughout all of our calendars. Going all the way over to the right, just like within Mail and Drive, you have our 9-dot apps navigator. To the right of that, we have our account settings and button there. If we click on that, we can change our account picture, as well as we can access our account settings and sign out of our account as well. Going back over to the left side of our screen, we have our red create button underneath the red calendar icon. We can go ahead and create a new event from here with a lot of detail. And just to the right of that, you'll notice that there is a little white pull down. If I hover over that, you'll notice it pulls up a tag of quick add. This will allow me to add an event to my calendar fairly quickly with just some text. And I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. Below that, we have our mini calendar. Now, the cool part about the mini calendar that a lot of people don't know about is that you can actually create a customized view in the middle of your screen. Now, if we look to the middle of my screen right now, we see that I am looking from the 7th through the 13th of February. So I have a week view going on right now. Now, let's say, for example, I wanted to look at something for the end of the month. Maybe I wanted to see what was going on the 29th and the 1st of March. If I go to my little calendar down here to the left side, I can click and drag from the 29th to the 1st, and you'll notice that the view in the middle of my screen changes to a 2-day view. So I've got Monday 2/29 and Tuesday 3/1. So I can see that customized view right there. I can always change this at any point in time by going back to that mini calendar, click and drag, and it will go to those specific days that I click and drag to look at. So you can quickly navigate throughout that little mini calendar there. Now this gives me a good opportunity to go back to my default view, which was a week view. So in the buttons just above my cursor here in the upper right of the screen, you'll see that we have separate buttons for day view, week view, month view, 3-day view, and an agenda view. Now I'm just going to click on week view for right now. And then I'm going to go back to the left side of our screen and click on the Today button to get back to the current week. So now that we've shown you the mini calendar piece, I'm just going to collapse that. Underneath my calendars, we have all of the calendars that I will be able to own and modify. So for example, this is where you're going to find your personal calendar. Also, if you are an administrative assistant and you're going to have an executive of some type give you the permission to manage their calendar on their behalf, you'll also find those calendars here as well. Other calendars that you'll find underneath your My Calendars that you can view and modify are going to be those calendars that you own or that you create and have taken ownership of. Below those, we have the task list. Now the task list is your personal to-do list, and you'll see right now, just as a heads up too, notice the block color to the left of Google Trainer, but then there's a square with no color next to Jennifer Executive and Tasks. However, if I hover over either of those icons, we notice that color populates in those squares. These calendars are just turned off right now. So for example, if I click once, you'll notice that Jennifer's calendar gets turned on. Click again and it gets turned off. So no color inside of that box when we hover away from the calendar name means that it's turned off. Now my task list, right now it's turned off, but if I click once, you'll notice that that will populate in the upper right hand corner of my screen, as well as certain due dates for tasks at the very top. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the class. Below the task list, we have other calendars, and these are going to be those calendars that you can view only. You do not have the ability to modify them. So this would be like your coworkers or maybe specific resources that have been put into Google. You'll be able to pull those things up as well as some other interesting calendars like public calendars, like holiday calendars, as well as sports calendars and such. Going to the top of our screen, we have in that upper left corner the Today button that I demonstrated just a moment ago. If you're looking at a period of time in your screen of anything other than the current week or day, you'll be able to quickly get back to that by just clicking on that Today button if it is enabled with the dark text in it. To the right of that, you have a right and left button where we can scroll through forward and previous periods of time. Going all the way over to the right, as I mentioned earlier, this is our view buttons that we can click and navigate to quickly. Right now we're looking at the week view, that's why it looks like it's been depressed there. I'll look at the day view, month view, 3-day view, or a custom view, and I'll show you how to customize this button, and the agenda view, which is a list view. Going to the right of that, we have our More button, and underneath More, this is where we'll come when we want to print or refresh our screen. To the right of that, we have our gear icon, and just like within Mail and within Drive, this is going to have a display density, so we'll be able to spread things out or snug things up. And then below that, we have our overall settings for this application, and we'll go into that shortly. Google Help, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Labs, just like you have within Mail, you can utilize Labs within Calendar. And then you have offline, and yes, you will be able to work with your calendar offline, and then when you get your calendar back online, it will sync up any changes that you've made. Below the gear icon, you'll see that I have a couple of labs enabled. In this case, I have the next meeting lab, and this will change once we start adding things to our calendar. And then since I'm training people all around the world right now, it helps me to have the world clock turned on to be able to see what time it is in those different vicinities. In the middle of my screen, I have my overall calendar view. At the very top, I have the date and day of that day. To the left side of our screen, we have the time of day. You'll notice that right now I have 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. collapsed, as well as at the bottom of my screen, 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. collapsed. That's because I have a lab turned on called Hide Morning and Night. I'd rather not see those hours that I'm not in the workplace, so I can hide them. If I click in either of those areas, it will expand, and now you can see I can see the entire period of time between there. And if I want to change that period that's hidden, I can go to the black bar in the middle of the screen, and I can click and drag it to whatever time I would like, let go, and now it collapses those hours. To the middle of my screen, I have Friday, that is grayed. That lets me know that today is the current day. Red line in the middle lets me know that it's the current time, or approximately. And right now it's a little after 2:30 in the afternoon. So that's what you have in terms of your overall view of your calendar. Now what I'd like to do is, before we go ahead and start jumping in to do things, let's go ahead and show you the settings and how to set some things up. So we're going to go to the upper right hand corner of our screen, and we're going to click on the gear icon, and we're going to go into the settings option and select. Back to the left side of our screen in that upper left corner, we see that we have 4 tabs: the General tab, Calendars tab, Mobile Setup, and Labs. And we'll go through each of these to show you what you need to do or what you can do within the setup before you get going. Now, to start off with, your domain administrators will probably set certain things up for you, so you may see some things already pre-filled out, such as the language, country, time zone, and such. Down below that, we have date format. Anytime that you see a little box with a pull down arrow to it, lets you know that you have some choices here. So you can select the date format that you would like, the time format that you would like, one of the more common ones that you'll want to set up is the default event duration. So with this allows you to create an event fairly quickly without having to schedule a certain time block. So if you just click on, for example, 12 o'clock and you put in lunch, it will automatically make it for whatever time you've selected here of 12 to 1 being a 60-minute period. But you can select whatever meeting length that you would like, and you can select as a default time of what that meeting length is for everything that you create, but you can always modify it, making something longer or shorter. Everything from no end time up to 120 minutes, or customize, meaning you can drag and drop to whatever you would like time wise. The week starts on Sunday, Monday, or Saturday for you. Below that, we have working hours, and you will only see this in your work account. You will not see this in a basic Gmail account, and that's one of those settings that is only enabled for either the EDU accounts, which you are, or in a Google for Work account. Now with this allows you to show a warning to other people when they invite you to an event outside of your working hours. In this case, it will pop up a little box in the middle of the screen if someone's tried to schedule you outside of the hours that you apply here in terms of from 9 to 5 or whatever. You can select the days that you work that shift and the times. Event dimming allows you to dim past events or dim recurring future events. You can show weekends in your week and in your month view. Your default view is the view that you would like to see when you come into your Google Calendar. You have a choice of day, week, month, the custom view, which is right below this, which right now we have set at 3 days, but I'll show you how to customize that in just a moment. And then the agenda view, which is that list view. The custom view is that button that I showed you earlier, which is the 3-day button. If you select that, you can choose everything from 2 days all the way on up to 4 weeks with what you would like to have that button be. Below that, you have location. Now, if you would like to, you can put in your city and state or even a zip code. And what you can do is below this, we can choose to show weather based on our location. We can either choose not to show weather, or if we click on the F and just do Fahrenheit, I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment, but it puts a little, approximately a 3mm by 3mm square up at the top of your screen, showing you what the forecast is for your area there. Below that, you can choose to show events that you have declined. Now, me personally, I like to have events that I've declined stay on my calendar. That allows me to go back to that event and quickly change my reply if needed. If you select no, that event will disappear from your calendar if you've declined it. Then, if it comes back to you that you need to attend that or would like to attend it because something else changed, you need to try to remember that it was even there. Below that, we have automatically add invitations to my calendar. Once again, me personally, I like to have everything added to my calendar because that puts the power in my hands to be able to dictate what I consider a priority. You can choose to add an alternate calendar. And if I scroll down just a little bit more, the Gentle Notifications lab, if that is enabled, you would see this field enabled here. And I really like this lab because it gives you a subtle notification in the bottom corner of your screen letting you know that your next event is going to occur. However, if you do not have this lab enabled, you will not see this field. And in the middle of your screen when your next event appears, it will be this big white box and it will lock up your screen until you take care of it. Below that, you can enable keyboard shortcuts. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Save since we made the change to that weather item here. That's going to take us back to our main calendar view. Then we'll look at that and then we'll jump right back into our settings. So just to show you what that looks like with the weather, you'll notice in the top right corner of our Friday and Saturday, we now have those little boxes. And if I hover my cursor over that, it will give me the forecast. And in this case for Denver today, it's going to be a high of 56 and a low of 32. You can also go to any of the icons and just click the box and it will pull up the box with the weather forecast. In this case, I can see tomorrow is going to be a little bit nicer. High of 65 and a low of 33. You'll also notice that with this weather calendar, if you look to the left side of our screen underneath other calendars, we now have a weather calendar that's been turned on. So if you'd rather not see this all the time, what you can do is just come back to that left side of the screen, click on that weather item, and that will disappear from your main view. You want to turn it back on, go to the left side of your screen, click once, and you'll notice those weather icons will reappear. Going back to that gear icon in the top right, let's jump right back into our settings. Now that we've shown you this first page, let's go to the second tab, which is calendars. From here, we can see all of the calendars that we have enabled. In this case, we can see my calendars, which are those that I can view and modify, my personal calendar, a birthdays calendar, my executives, and my task list. You'll notice that with each calendar to the right, you can show it in the list in your main calendar view. Notifications can get modified from here, and then you can edit your shared settings for each calendar, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. Down below that, we have our create new calendar item. We can click and create a new calendar here, like a team or a department calendar. We can import maybe a coworker's calendar or another type of calendar, and you can export calendars as well. Below that, we have the other calendars category. These are those calendars that I can only view, such as my coworkers and maybe that weather calendar, some sports calendars, and such. Going back up to the top, the first thing we'd like to do with our own calendar is set up what we want for sharing and notifications. So what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on this Google Trainer calendar. We're going to go all the way over to the right, and let's make sure that things are shared out appropriately to start with. So we click on that shared edit settings link, and it takes us to this share this calendar page for my Google Trainer details calendar. Now underneath this, the first thing that we'll see is share this calendar with others. Most likely this is going to be pre-selected for you because you want to be able to share your calendars out and have other people be able to see your calendar throughout the UMD domain. So if you have these selected, people in your domain will be able to pull your calendar up and see what's going on. Now with that calendar, we can also set the permissions of what they can see, such as right now it's set to only free and busy time, meaning that people would be able to pull my calendar up, but they would only see the words free or busy on my event blockout times. They would not see anything in detail event-wise. Now below this, I may want to share my calendar out with specific people and give them a higher permission, such as coworkers or administrative assistants and such. What you can do is if you would like to add one of those people specifically here, enter their email address in the box, and I'm just going to go ahead and enter Paul, select, and that will pull off of your contacts list. You'll see down at the bottom, Paul has been added to my list, and if I go over to the right side of the screen, I can set the permission for what I want Paul to be able to see or do. In this case, see all event details is probably what you're going to set for a coworker. You want your coworkers to see your calendar and what you're doing because maybe you coordinate on different things and projects. Above that, you can give permission to people to make changes to your events, such as administrative assistants will probably need that permission in order to manage a calendar on behalf of someone else. The highest permission that you have is make changes and manage sharing. This would allow people to make changes and basically manage that calendar as if it's their own, as well as being able to share your calendar out on your behalf. Select the appropriate permission here for that person, and then you'll click on Save and be done. Now, if at any point in time one of these people moves to a different department or leaves the organization, we can always come back here and change the permission, or we can remove them completely by clicking on the trash can at the right side. Once we've done that, we click on Save. Those changes would take effect immediately. Now the next thing that you're going to want to do with your own calendar is to edit the notifications. So how would you like to be notified for things regarding your calendar? The first piece that we have here up at the top is edit notifications. So when you create an event, how would you like to be notified of that event? 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, whatever it may be. We can do that with an email or a pop-up. We can dictate how much time, whether it be minutes, hours, days, or weeks before each event. You can add up to 5 notifications per event, and you can remove as many of these as you would like. Below that, we have all-day event notifications, so you can get notified the day before. So for example, if let's say you had a seminar for the next day, you're going to be out of the office, you can get notified that day before, and maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, just as a reminder before you leave that you're not going to be going to the regular location that you go to. Down below, choose how you'd like to be kept up to date regarding events on your calendar and other people's stuff as well. In terms of, would you like to be notified regarding new events on your calendar? When changed events occur, events are canceled, or if you've created an event, maybe you want to get notified every time someone responds to an event. Below that, you have a daily agenda. Now with the daily agenda, you can choose to get this into your mailbox somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, once per day, and get the heads up on what's coming on either your calendar or maybe from someone else's. To the right side, you can choose how you'd like to get notified. You can get SMS text messaging on your phone or mobile device, and you can also get email. If we want to set up those notifications for our mobile phone, what we can do is go to the very bottom of our screen, click on Set up your mobile phone to receive these notifications. That takes us to our mobile setup page. From here, you'll go ahead and enter a phone number, which would be your cell or mobile number. Click Send Verification Code. Google would then send you a code of numbers and letters. You'd come back to this box, punch that code in, click Finish Setup, and you would now be able to get those notifications regarding those things on your calendar. That is not interacting with the calendar, it's only for the notifications for. If you'd like direction on how to set up your mobile device, depending on what the circumstances are and the guidelines for use are from the University of Maryland, I would highly recommend that you visit the University of Maryland Going Google support site. Now I'm just going to jump back here to my Calendars tab, and we're going to go right back into our Edit Notifications page where we just were. And you'll see up at the top here, Edit Notifications is grayed out. What I want to do is show you this last tab here, which is Trash. So these are all the things that I have canceled or deleted off of my calendar. Now you do have the ability of seeing what's in your trash as well as coming here, selecting something, and if I go down to the bottom, I can restore those selected events and then maybe tweak it for a different date or time. So it may end up being a time saver for you of doing something and modifying something as opposed to starting from scratch and creating something from there. You can also delete things forever and go to those next appointments and such that are on there. So that's what you have in regards to that. Now what I'm going to do is just go back to my calendar, and I do want to go back into my calendar settings. And I want to hit the last tab here, which is Labs. Now just like you have within Mail, you do have extra features that you can turn on or turn off within your Google Calendar. These are called Labs, and these will enhance your user experience, and I've already mentioned a few that I've got enabled in the domain right now. The first one I mentioned was the Hide Morning and Night. I also have Gentle Notifications. If you'd like to give yourself an additional feature within your creation of events, you can add automatically declining events, Who's My One-on-One With, the Year View, background imagery, free or busy, jump to date. My personal favorite is next meeting, and then you have the world clock. All you need to do is click on the enable button, click on save changes, and that will go into effect immediately. So now that we've shown you all the tabs and all the things that we have within settings, let's go back to our calendar view and start creating. So let's start off by creating something very easy, which is just blocking some time off on our calendar. So I'm just going to scroll into the middle of my screen here and scroll down a little bit. I can look at my current day, which is Friday, and maybe what I want to do is put something on my calendar just as a simple block off for later on this afternoon. What I can do is I can go to the 4 p.m. mark and just click. A little box is going to pop up for you to title it. In this case, what we could just say, this is just going to be a block off for myself to make some phone calls. Create an event, and you've just blocked an hour off on your calendar for yourself. Now, if someone could see all event details of their calendar events, they'd be able to see phone calls on your calendar there. Otherwise, they would only see the word busy. You'll also notice that the time block off is from 4 to 5 p.m., where it's that default hour length that I created for those meetings earlier. Now you can also create something a little bit longer by clicking and dragging. So let's say, for example, tomorrow I'm going to click from 9 to 11:30, let go, and we'll just say we have baseball practice. Create an event, and now you've blocked off 2.5 hours for yourself. So that's how you can do something really quick and easy without adding any detail. It's just a simple block off of time on your calendar. Now you can also use the quick add to do some of the same thing. If we go to the left side of our screen and click on that quick add arrow, I'm going to say lunch on Saturday at noon with Bob. Now when I hit enter, keep your eyes on the middle of my screen in where it says Saturday around that 12 o'clock part. You'll notice there that just with the text, it's been added lunch with Bob, a default of 12 to 1, as an event blocked off on my calendar. Now, you can use that quick add in a number of different ways, but that's just the simplest way of showing it in terms of utilizing text and a little bit of information to put into effect of an event. Now, you can also make an event shorter than your period of time. Let's say, for example, this was only going to be a half-hour lunch date. I can go to the bottom, get that double-ended arrow, drag, and now it's going from 12 to 12:30. Let go, and we've added that event and updated it. And you can also make something a little bit longer. We can go ahead and drag and drop, let it go, and you'll see that we've made that from 4 to 6 p.m. now for phone calls. Now, if you'd like to modify this in terms of dragging it to a different day, click, drag to the left or to the right, wherever you would like to put your event, let go, and now you've updated that. So that's what that's going to look like whenever you create something without adding anybody. You're not going to get any notifications to update guests or anything of that nature. All you'll get is just the simple update of whatever you're trying to do. Okay, so now that we've done the basics, let's go in and let's go ahead and add a event that has a lot of detail. So what we're going to do, you can do this in two different ways depending on how much time you would like to save. So I'm going to show you both ways and you can kind of take it from there with what you'd like to generate. Now, what I personally usually do is I'll go to the date and time that I would like my event to start. Now, what that's going to do is it takes off just that little bit extra that you have to fill out inside of the create button field. So for example, let's go to next week. So I scroll forward 1 week, so now we're looking from Sunday 2/14 to Saturday 2/20. Let's say I have something going on in the early part of my afternoon on that Monday. So I'm going to click at 1 o'clock and then I'm going to go into this box and I'm going to click Edit Event. Now this is taking me to that Create Event field. Now what that's going to do is it's automatically going to pre-populate my date of the 15th and time that I selected. So how is that a shortcut? Well, here's what it looks like otherwise. Let's go back out. Let's say, for example, I want to do an event at 1 o'clock on Monday. What I can do is I can click on Create and notice what happens. My date and my time field need to be set for that date and time. So now I've got to go back and click on the 15th. Now I have to go back and select the time that I want that event to start. So in this case, we'll just say meeting. Now you can choose that date just by clicking on the date field and select it from the calendar picker. Same thing goes with the time. You can just click on that and it's going to be in half-hour increments here, but you do have the option of just selecting the minutes and typing in what time you would like this meeting to start. So let's say we want to start this at 10 after 1. Click away from it and now we start at 1:10. You'll also notice that my to time is going to be dictated by whatever my default length of meeting was. In this case, 60 minutes or an hour. Notice how it goes to 2:10. But if I click inside of this, I can go ahead and just say I want this to end at 2 p.m. So now I've got that 50-minute meeting. So between the two start and end times, you can dictate however long you would like your meeting to last, as well as a start and end time for those. Once again, just select the minutes and type in whatever you want. Now you do have the option of also creating something either in another time zone or for another time zone. If we clicked on that far side, we have time zone there. So let's say, for example, you wanted to schedule a conference call with someone that's going to be in the Pacific time zone. So what we can do is we can use separate start and end time zones if we would like to, especially helpful if you are entering data off of a plane ticket. So you're leaving Eastern time zone and arriving in Pacific time zone. Or what we can do is just have that event start in whatever time zone you want that client to be for. So if you were wanting to schedule it for 1 o'clock Pacific time, we could go ahead and say Pacific time and done. And now on our calendar, this will automatically be updated compared to what time zone you have set up. So you can always go back and modify that if you need to. And being that I'm in Mountain Time Zone, I'm just going to leave that as is. So that's what we have there for creating something in a different time zone. Underneath that, we have all day and repeating events. Now, I'm going to treat these as different animals. We'll go back to that a little bit later because I'll show you what the differences are between the two setups. For now, we're just going to do just a simple meeting at a certain time of day. Now the first tab that we see here is our events detail tab. Now from here you'll see below we have a where. Now with the where we can go ahead and enter a location. So for example, I can go ahead and start entering an address or a street number for a building, and you'll see it will pull up some things that are close to me. So I could go ahead and say that address there. Now the nice part about doing it with the address is that once I've saved the event, underneath my address there'll be a map link allowing me to go ahead and click on that and navigate it through Google Maps. Especially helpful if I'm pulling this event up on my mobile device. Now I can use that handy navigation feature and get to that location. You can also just go ahead and type in something. So if I could spell correctly, we would see cafe there, and we can just click away from it because we all know where the cafe is. It's downstairs in our building and we'll just meet there at a table and eat lunch and chat. So that's what you have there. Also, if you have any rooms that are eventually going to be put into Google, you'll be able to go to the far right side and click on the rooms link, and you could add a room and it will automatically update there as well. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. Let's just remove our conference room here because I'm going to show you a little bit different way that you are going to add those. But for a location, I'll just click on this as my old office. All right, so if you've already had the mail class, you've noticed that I've told you before that you can schedule a video call or a hangout through your Google Calendar, and here's where you can do that. So if we're planning on having a meeting, what you can do is you can add a video call for those people that may need to join remotely. So if you click on Add Video Call, it will give everybody a link to join that meeting via the invite, and then they'd be able to have that hangout or Skype type of a call with you over that video conferencing feature from Mail. If you'd rather not, just click on Remove and that will stay away. Your calendar will be the default calendar that you have selected, in this case our personal calendar. So this is going to be an event put on our personal calendar. If you were creating something on another calendar, for example a team or a department calendar, you could simply click the pull down and add that calendar from here. In terms of the description field, you can add whatever you would like. This is a great place to cut and paste information for conference calls or webinars and things of that nature to add that information for. Below that we have Add Attachment. So you can add any type of attachments that you would like. We can add things from our Google Drive. We can go ahead and upload things from our hard drive, and we can also access things that we've previously selected from other meetings and invitations. To add something, you'd simply just select it from the list, select, and it would add it from Drive. If you'd like to add another attachment, let's show you how the upload feature works. So we'll click on Upload. I'm going to access something from my hard drive here. Let's just scroll down. We'll grab the Star Wars timesheet, click and drag into this field, let go. It will put it in a queue. You can add multiple files here, but once you're done, you can just go down to the bottom and click on Upload. It will upload that file, and now it's added it to our list of attachments there in the bottom left. Below that, we can event color code. So what we can do is we have a default color that we've got selected for our calendar here, which is that navy blue with that white check mark. Now let's say for example all phone call meetings I want to be colored green. All staff meetings I need to be colored red. Those kinds of things. So if you have certain things that are going to be color coded, you can do that per event here. So even though the default color I have for my meeting is blue, let's go ahead and make this one red. Below that, we have notifications. So once again, we can set up those notifications to be on every invite that we create, such as email or pop-up. Dictate the time as minutes, hours, days, or weeks. If we do not want anything of these, we can just click on the X and get rid of those notifications altogether, or add up to 5 by clicking the Add a Notification link. Below that, Show Me As. The default will be busy. You can make yourself available or free. If it was something like you're going to be at your desk doing phone calls, maybe you want to make yourself available. You can do that from here. Otherwise, everybody else will see the word busy. Now that lab that I had you turn on earlier, Busy Decline Invitations, gives you an additional option here of selecting that button. That would automatically send a decline invitation response to someone who is trying to invite you during the time for this meeting, in this case between 1:10 and 2 p.m. on the 15th. Below that, you have calendar visibility. Now, the calendar default is going to depend on what each individual that you have given permission to. But you can also make an overall generality of either public or private. So, for example, if we were creating a retirement party for someone, we would want to make that public so that everybody could see the details to it and be able to see that that's what it was and they could come to it. On the flip side of the coin, I may want to put something on my calendar that is private, like a doctor's appointment. I don't need anybody to know what that is, but I can make that private. In that case, even if someone was able to see all event details on my calendar, they would only see the words busy or the word busy on my calendar. To the top right, we have add guests and rooms. Now, what you're going to be doing here is a little bit different than what the norm is, and that is when you add guests, you'll be able to pull off of your contacts. So let's go ahead and show you how to add a few people contact-wise. So we'll add Paul. Let's go ahead and add Gary. And let's add Jennifer. So you can add guests by typing in someone's email address. You can also add guests pulling from your directory that you have. And also, if you would like to reserve a resource, and being that everybody in UMD's environment is going to have all of their calendars eventually migrated to Google, what you are going to do is, if you would like to add a room or book a resource, what you can do is in the guest portion here, you would go ahead and type in the room's email address. For example, css3316 at umd.edu, and then you would be able to see that as a guest in your list here, and you'd be able to see that in just a moment. We'll show you the Find a Time tab to see if it was available. Now, if rooms or resources are eventually added to Google, what you can do is click on the rooms link side here, add that, and that will show you in that same area. And let's go ahead and just delete that from that field there. Now let's go ahead and show you what this is going to look like. And like I said, if you were going to do something in terms of booking a room for right now, what I would do and what you're going to need to do is type in your room address 3316 at umd.edu and add that room or resource as a guest. Click on add, and you'll see that that will get added to the list here. Now, unfortunately, I am not in the UMD domain for this training video, so I will not be able to pull that room up specifically to see, but you get the idea of what you will have to do. If you're booking a resource room or you're booking a resource, what you'll need to do is add it as a guest and then add the email address, and it will add it to the guest list here. Now, you'll be able to use this functionality the same way as I'm going to use my functionality of booking a conference room. What we want to do is go up to the Find a Time tab. We'll click on that. And for everybody that is in the domain, including the rooms and resources that you have access to, you'll see them in the top here. Because I am outside of that domain, I will not be able to see that CSS3316 room, so I won't see that here. But the nice part about this is this. It will come up similar to what I have for my small conference room, and I can see the availability of that conference room before I even book it, as well as all of my guests that are within my UMD domain. Now you'll notice to the right side here how the CSS room and Gary both have an asterisk there. That's because they are outside of my domain that I'm currently working in. Now, anytime that you have someone that you've invited outside of the domain, you will not be able to see their calendar because you don't have access to it through the UMD domain services. So you will not see them in this list here. Now, if you are a little confused or you would like more information about how to book a resource or a room, I highly recommend, and I will show this at the end of this video, on how to access the UMD Going Google support site. It would be underneath the Early Adopters tab, and you have how to schedule a room and resource in Google Calendar directions there for you. So it will walk you through step by step if it's unclear through this video. So now that we've done that, you'll see within this Find a Time tab, I can see if everybody's available for this meeting. Now right now, I have a nice clear blue box letting me know that yes, everybody is available. You'll also notice down below on Paul and the Google Trainer, there's these grayed out squares. Now with this is their working hours. Now you'll notice here, if I drag this down, the box still says clear. Doesn't stop me from booking this event, but it will give me a notification. So I'm going to leave this here. Now you'll notice that I just clicked and dragged that box down to where I wanted it. You'll also notice that it updated the time up at the top here for what I wanted. So now that we've got that, I just want to show you if this day didn't work, you could click on week and you could drag and drop this to another day in the current week. You'd also be able to scroll forward or backwards to see other times and dates. So now that we're done with this, let's go ahead and go back to the event details page. So underneath each of the people that we've added, you'll notice that to the left there is a little icon and we can mark a specific person to be optional. So for example, Gary doesn't necessarily need to come to this meeting, but we want to give him all the information and let him know that he is going to be a part of that information there. So we can just click on that icon and leave that as is, and in parentheses his name would appear as an optional attendee. Click it again, and now he would be considered a mandatory attendee. So we have our guest list. Now when people respond, you see here we have yes, maybe, no, and awaiting. We'll see the different symbols next to people's names. A check mark means yes, question mark would be maybe, a circle with a slash through it would be no, and awaiting would just leave a blank mark there. Underneath the guest list, you'll have suggested times. This allows you to see when all participants can attend, but only within the people that are within your domain. Below that, we can see guests can modify the event, invite others, or see the guest list. Keep in mind, if you select any of these, this would be all without your permission, unless you say see guest list is your permission. But people would be able to modify the event without your permission and invite others without your permission if either of these boxes are selected. Going back up to the top, now that we're all done with our meeting, let's go ahead and click on the Save button. And now we're going to start getting our pop-ups. So the first thing that we're going to see here is attendees from outside of the UMD org. So what does that mean? Well, it means you have the ability to invite people. They just want to make sure, are you sure you want to do that? In this case, we'll say yes. Now the next thing that's going to pop up here is, are you sure you're trying to book this event for people that are outside of these working hours? Do you want to continue? Now, as I said before, this doesn't stop me from booking it, but it does give me pause for thought. We'll just click on Save Event. I've got Drive files that I haven't shared with everybody. I probably need to share those with everyone so that they can access them. And then Send Invitations. Would you like to send invitations to the guests or not? And now we see on our calendar, here is our meeting. So now from 4:40 to 5:30, we're going to have that meeting on Monday, 2:15. And you'll notice that it's also color-coded red as opposed to the royal blue that comes up or navy blue that comes up when I try to schedule something on my own calendar. So now that we've shown you how to create that calendar event with a lot of detail, let's go ahead and show you the other two ways that you can create events, and then we'll come back and modify some different things. So let's go back to create an event. We're going to go ahead and say all day, just so we can keep track of what type of events we're scheduling here. I'm going to go to 2:14. Let's go to 2:17. and we're going to make this an all-day event. So we don't have to put anything here in terms of a time or an end date. I'm just going to go ahead and click on all day, and you'll see that I can put an end date if it was multiple days, but in this case, we're just going to leave it at the 1 day. Now, I'm not going to invite anybody. I'm just going to leave this as is to save a little bit of time. Click on Save, and you'll notice up at the top, underneath Wednesday 2/17, it says All Day. So that's how you can schedule an all-day event with that button there. Now, we can also do an all-day event in a number of other ways. For example, we can use that quick add. Let's just do seminar, and that will make a little bit more sense to it. So we'll say seminar all day on 2/18 and enter. And you'll notice on the 18th, it pops up there for the seminar. Another way that we can do something is just by clicking in this bar up at the top. We'll say all day, and you'll notice that all day event pops up the top there. Now, me personally, I'm not really crazy about any of those three ways because a lot of people will overlook this top part. So if someone's trying to book me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, keep in mind they're only human. Their eyes are naturally going to be drawn to the 1 o'clock area of their day and see if I'm open. So what I personally like to do is for an all day event, click and drag, type my name in, and there we go. So now you've got that way, and that way when people look at your calendar, they can clearly see that you're booked for the entire period of time. Totally up to you on how you want to do it. I know some people like to do both, but I like to do the whole all day bit here just so it lets everybody know visually that I'm booked solid for that day. All right, the next thing I want to show you how to do is how to do a repeating event. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click in here, click on Edit Event. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just type in repeat, and then down below I'm going to click repeat as a menu item here. You'll notice a dialog pops up in the beginning and middle of our screen here so that we can go ahead and see what's going on. Now you have a number of options here for repeating meetings. We can make this repeat weekly, daily, every weekday, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every Tuesday, Thursday, monthly, and even yearly. Now, depending on what you select here, your choices down below that will be dictated by. So for example, right now we have weekly, X amount of weeks, and repeat on a specific day. However, if I just go below this and change this to monthly, now it's going to be repeating monthly on every X amount of months, and now I can repeat by the day of the month or even the day of the week. The part that you want to keep your eye on is the summary down below, and you'll see here I've got monthly on day 15. So if that's what I want, I'm good to go. Or if I click on repeat by and we go to day of the week, notice how my summary changes to monthly on the third Monday. So you have some options depending on what you select in that top half. Below that, you can have it ending on a specific day after X amount of occurrences or never ending. You choose from whatever you would like from that list there. So we're going to go ahead and click on done, and let's go ahead and color code this one green, and keep in mind we're monthly on the third Monday. So let's go ahead and click on save. You'll see here is our event in green. Now let's go ahead a month. Here on the third Monday is our repeating event. Let's go another month. And there it is. So that's how you can create that repeating event. Now, if you do choose to delete a repeating event, if you delete one of those, it's going to ask you, do you want to delete just this one time, all of the following, or all events in that series? So let's go ahead and go back to today and then go forward a week so that we have all of our stuff in our screen here. Now the next thing I want to do is show you how you can modify some of these events. So as I said before, we can take any event that we created without adding any guests, click and drag and let go. Nothing's going to come up in terms of pop-ups. However, if I try to do that with our meeting that we added guests to, click and drag to a different time, notice what occurs. Do you want to send updates to people? We can say yes or no, and now we've changed that meeting that way. Now we can also modify something by clicking on the title of the meeting and go into the page that we did all of our details on. So now I can change my response from up at the top here, or add a note, change the title, the date, the time, all day repeating, everything that was within my event details tab. You'll also notice that now that we saved the event, there is now a map link there. So if someone clicks on this link, it will take them to Google Maps and it will pull up the location of where that's at. Everything else in here is able to be modified in terms of adding video calls, descriptions, attaching or detaching certain attachments. We can change color coding, notifications. Everything within this area is able to be modified. Now, if you would like to come to the right side of the screen, we can check on our guest list. We can see that the trainer has said yes, that they are going, but I'm awaiting these 4 other responses. Now, let's say, for example, I needed to delete someone from this list, like the CSS room. We'll go ahead and remove that guest. It strikes that person through. And then if I go back to my guest list up at the top, let's say I'm going to add Jeremy. You'll notice it puts his name above the line right here. So now here's where it comes into play in terms of every time I modify something that is guest related, what's going to happen? If you modify an event that affects all guests, it will ask you to send an update to everyone. However, if you are just adding a new person, like in this case we're just adding Jeremy, it would only ask you, would you like to send an update or an invite to the new guest, and it wouldn't send something to everybody else. So it just depends on what you're wanting to do in regards to modifying an event. Everything else here is able to be modified or dealt with like we just showed you. We can also go down to the bottom here and check that suggested times or change the guest permission piece. If we're done with our guest stuff, we can go to the top and click on Save. And you can see here, outside the organization, so yes. And would you like to send invitations to new guests and cancellations to those that have been removed? So that's what it's going to look like when you modify an event in that way. Now, if you are going to get events on your calendar and respond to them, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to go to the left side of my screen. I'm going to turn Jennifer's calendar on because I'm going to show you what it's going to look like on your calendar. So I'm going to turn mine off. Now you'll see here we have meeting, and it's got that arrow. Now when you get invited to something on your own calendar, you're going to have those events get populated on your calendar view, and you'll see the little arrows there. That lets you know that you have not yet responded. Now if you click the little arrow, it's going to pull up a box for you to see all the information about that meeting. You'll also be able to click on your response of yes, maybe, or no, that you are not going, or maybe, and it will be reflected in that update. If you say yes, the meeting stays solid colored. If we say maybe, a question mark will be added to the upper left corner of the invite. And if we say no, it will strike the meeting through and dim it out. Now if I go back to my meeting response, let's go back inside of that. I can see there's the slash with a circle through it, or I should say a circle with a slash through it, letting people know that Jennifer is not going to make it. Question mark would be a maybe, and anything in terms of awaiting response is left blank. So that's what that's going to look like when you update the guest list there or look at the guest list. Alright, so let's show you just another couple of things that we can look at when we're modifying or going into a meeting that's already been added to our calendar. If you go into any of the meetings that you have that are on your calendar, you can click on the title and it will take you into that event details page. Now you also have some additional buttons that populate there once you've saved it or once something's been added to your calendar. Up at the top, if you are the owner of an event and you've changed something or gone into this page, you'll see a discard changes, so you can make changes and then change your mind. You can delete this event, and then you have more actions, and from here you can change the owner of a specific calendar event, duplicate or copy an event, or you can copy an event to someone else's calendar or maybe even your own calendar from here. So let's jump back out. Now the next thing I want to speak to you about is how to create and share and customize your calendars themselves. So as you see here, right now I'm overlaying several calendars at once. If I turn this weather calendar off, I can turn Bill's calendar on. And this is what it looks like when you have multiple calendars going. So you may have your personal calendar as well as your work calendar going on. You would have those turned on here and see those either side by side or on top of each other. Events that are at the same time, like I've got a double event here, we can see that they are just going to show up side by side. Now, if you are one of those people like me, that you have multiple people's calendars that you are modifying and working with, you'll see that it can get a little crazy. And one of the tips that I can give you is that you can always turn off these calendars if you're not using them full time. So look at it, turn it on, turn it off. So that's my best advice for that piece, at least until you get used to the calendar view. Now, other things that I want to show you how to do is how to create your own calendar. If you go to your My Calendars area and hover over that, click the little pull down, you'll see a Create New Calendar option populates. Click on that, and here's where you'll be able to create your department, team calendars, whatever it may be. So we'll just say department calendar. We can add a description. We can share this calendar with others. We can just invite specific people of our department and then click on Create. You'll see that calendar populate up here in just a moment. And there it is, our department calendar. Now, with any calendars that you have in your sidebar here to the left, the colors that are in these boxes are for you and only you. What does that mean? That means if I want to assign pink to Jennifer, Jennifer does not see pink on her calendar for her events. It's only for me, so I'm not changing her specific color that she wants for herself. Now, you can change all these colors yourself to whatever you would like by going to the specific calendar and hover over it. Click the little pull down, and then you can choose at the bottom here either a stock color or choose custom color. And then we can take that little dot in the middle of the screen and you can drag and drop this wherever you would like. So if you want something to be, let's say for example, this bright lime green, we'll click and let go and click OK. If you ever want to share a specific color with someone, you can copy that color code and then they can add it in that area as well. So now we've got our department calendar in that lime green. So let's say, for example, we want to put something on that department calendar. We'll click and start an event. And let's just say this day we're going to have a coffee and convo day. So we'll say create an event, but we want to put it on our department calendar, not our trainer calendar. So we're going to click the pull down first, put it on department calendar, and create an event. And now we've got that coffee and convo added to that calendar. So now everybody's got that calendar up and everybody will see that we had that event at that time, so we don't even have to invite anybody, which can really save some time. Now you can also go back to that same area. Any of the calendars that you have, you can hover over, click on that pull down. You can turn off everything but a specific calendar, hide the calendar from this list, check the calendar settings, view the trash for this calendar, create an event specifically on this calendar, share this calendar out with people if that's allowed, and then edit notifications for. So remember in the very beginning of the class I said I have it set up that I get a notification from my executive's calendar every morning for her daily agenda. Well, what I've done is I've gone to her calendar, click on the pull down, and go to edit notifications. You'll see here I've chosen to get that daily agenda as well as everything else from her calendar response-wise to me. This has nothing to do with her responses or anything that she has set up for herself. This is only for me. So I can go ahead and do that for all the calendars that I have access to. So if I want to get everything from department calendar notifications, edit notifications, and now I can go ahead and set up what I would like. So that's how you can get those different notifications for other calendars and how you can kind of customize your calendar for your own liking. Now, if you would like to start adding calendars to your view here, you can do this in a few different ways other than just the area from your My Calendars. We can go to Other Calendars. We can add a coworker's calendar here just by typing in their email address. And if it's allowed, you'll see their calendar pop up. And you can see here, here's a good example of not being able to see any event details for this person. For each event on Paul's calendar, I can only see the word busy. I can't see any details. If I click on Bill and turn Bills on, I can see everything that's going on for Bill. If I go to someone's calendar and I don't have permission, like Diane, I may get a notification like this of add a coworker's calendar, and it would send a request to that person to be able to accept or reject that request. So that's how you can add those calendars that way. Now we can also go to the left side of our screen and underneath other calendars, click. We can go to add a coworker's calendar from here, browse interesting calendars. If we do this, we can add our different holiday calendars, sports calendars. Underneath more, you'll see some other calendars as well as resources for. So eventually you'll see a resources for University of Maryland. You'll be able to click on that and you'll be able to add whatever resources have been decided upon to be added here in the Google domain. Also underneath that other calendars pull down, you'll notice that you can also add by a URL, import a specific calendar, maybe another coworker that's still in exchange, and then you can also access settings. Now, the next thing I'd like to show you is how you can go ahead and work with your task list. Now, your task list is your personal to-do list. This is for you and only you. So let me go ahead and just turn off some of these other calendars just to avoid a little distraction. And we're going to turn on our task list here to the right. So you'll notice that in the upper right corner, our task list has now appeared, and this is my personal to-do list. Now, no one else will see this. Even if they see my calendar, they won't be able to see my task list. Now, what this is allowing you to put up things that you need to accomplish in your workday. Now, you can create multiple lists. If we look at this first button down in the lower right, you'll notice here I have a work to-do list, which is what I have showing now. I have a personal list. So it shows me my personal things that I need to do. And then I have an action items list where I have some different things that I need to do there as well. Now you can create a new list right from that button. You can also delete a list, rename it, or refresh it. You can always add new items just by clicking into the list and start typing. You can go to the little pull down arrow to the right and go into that specific event, and you can go ahead and add a due date. If you add a due date, it will show up at the top of that day in that all day area. You can add notes about a specific task, and then we can go back to our list. So we see here we've set up a test for Wednesday, February 17th. If you've completed any of these tasks, you can click on the little box here and it will strike it through as done, deselect it as not done. You can also strike it through as being done in the day view or undo in that regard. If you go to actions, you can clear your completed tasks, sort by due date, view the completed tasks, print your task list, show tips and help, edit details, move up or down in your list, as well as indent or unindent in your list. Other than just typing in somewhere inside of your box and adding a task there, you can also click on the plus and that will add a task, and you can start typing from there. You can also use the trash can to get rid of anything that you've already completed. So that's how you're going to use your task list. Now, if it comes to an instance where you do need to assign a task to someone, you can do this as well just by assigning an event to someone. So for example, here's what I usually do. Click on what you want the event to be in terms of either a morning or an afternoon. Go to Edit Event. Title the event. And we'll just say real simple of Run Reports. Make the start and end time the exact same so it doesn't take time off of people's calendar. Then add your guest, which is I want Paul to be able to do this running of reports. Save event, don't send. So now I have just assigned that task to Paul. Now Paul will get his pop-up reminding him to do that task, and I'll get the pop-up reminding me to look for that task, and so on and so forth. So that's the best way to do that in my opinion. Now, the last thing I'd like to speak to is showing you how to print your calendar. Now, if you would like to print your calendar, here is my best advice. Number one, go to the left side of your screen where all your calendars are. Turn off everything that you don't want to print. So if you're only wanting to print your calendar, turn everything else off. If you're wanting to print multiple people's calendars, turn those people's calendars on. Next, go to the upper right hand corner and for the view, select what view you would like to print out. Do you want to print out a day view, week view, a month view, your customized view, or your list view? So let's say, for example, we want to print out our week view. And then after you've selected the view, go to More and click on Print. Now you'll notice a print preview box will come up and you're pretty limited with what you can change here. You can't change the overall view, so there's no buttons up at the top for you to go back and change here. And you can't change the view from here anymore because you're already in this preview. You'll also notice that the preview is going to show you in color what you're doing. If you do print in black and white, it will show it in black and white. Notice how it's saving the print cartridges. It's only going to print in the color that you have assigned to that person, but it's not going to print a solid block like it is in your calendar view. Now you do have some options to change some things in terms of the range and font, black and white and such down below. And also as another tip, if you expand your box to full size, in the lower right hand corner, you can save as a PDF and send that off to someone as an attachment that way. So that's my best advice for printing your calendar. Now, if you'd like to search your calendar, as I said before, it's really simple to do. Go up to the very top, type in what you're looking for, enter, and it will pull up the results for that search. If you'd like to do an advanced search, go to the little pull down arrow to the right side of that box, and you can search through specific calendars, all of your other calendars, which are your coworkers and such that you may have enabled, add a what, who, where, doesn't have, and even a date parameter of when that event is that you're thinking about. So that's what you have in terms of that search feature within your calendar view. Just to reiterate some of those labs that we spoke to today: gentle notifications, hide morning and night, automatically declining events, who's my one-on-one with, background images, jump to date, next meeting, and world clock. I would like to say thank you very much for attending today's class, and hopefully we've given you some great information to get started with your Google Calendar. I highly recommend that you visit the University of Maryland Going Google Support site. And if I just jump in here, I'd like to just go to that site to show you a few things. Coming to the home page, you can see here that we have a lot of great information available to you. To the left side in your navigation, you have tips and tricks, FAQs, Google Guide help, overall help, stuff about early adopters, and mobile setup. In the middle, you have your training, so you can go to see all the different training videos and such. If we go to that page, you'll be able to see here you have your mail classes as well as your calendar, and down at the very bottom, Introduction to Drive, as well as if you're one of those people that would like to set up multiple profiles in Chrome, I highly recommend that you check out this video. All you need to do is click on play and it will play right in this screen. I'd also like to recommend that you go back to the home page here. And if you are one of those people that has a lot of questions about what is going on, what you can do is come to your FAQs, select that. It will give you an overall list of all the different types of FAQs that are being asked, and you can see all the different information here that you can access. For example, how do I switch between my personal Gmail account and my UMD Google Apps account in the same browser? Maybe you have a question about calendar. We'll go to the calendar link. What level of access do others have to my calendar? Can I invite a distribution list from our directory? And so on and so forth. So you have a lot of great information here. The last thing I'd like to point out, for those of you that are wanting a little bit more information on how to step-by-step add a resource to a calendar event, go to the left side underneath Early Adopters. And in Early Adopters, you'll see here, Scheduling Room Resources in Google Calendar. If you select that, it will take you to the step-by-step instructions on how to do this right from that support page. So hopefully this has given you some great information on how to do what you need to do within Google Calendar and such, and also how to access this great information from your University of Maryland Going Google support site. Well, until we meet again, thank you very much once again for attending today's class, and take care. Goodbye now.